Well, good morning, and we're excited to be able to get back home and play this week against an Illinois team that's, I think, playing really good football right now. And certainly we got 4 games under our belt, and we got to make sure we learn lessons through those experiences. Positives and the negatives, and how do we go forward and continue to be the best team, work to become the best team we can be. But it's always good to start the week and being with the guys and excited for this week of preparation.
Paul, obviously there were some issues with the defense on Saturday, but I'm just curious, did your two inside linebackers who were, first-time starters, did they learn some lessons that their predecessors, Jack and Leo, had to learn when they first started?
Yeah, I think that, I do believe that you're always learning, and you're getting it, or you're reinforcing, things that you've done. And I don't think that Muma and JT are different than any other player in that regard, and absolutely there's things that, and it's every game you're going to play. If you were to ask those two, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, they'd have some, and I do believe this. They'd have some that, okay, I can be better at this, and then they'll have some that, all right, how do I not let that happen? How do I manage that situation? Or a lot of it is how do you as an individual manage the situation you're in? And then there's also a schematic component to it. How do I, if I get this, what do I do? I don't care if it's offense or defense, right? There's a reactionary component to it. And there's a kind of big picture talk about playing the game. Can you free yourself up to play the game and as opposed to thinking it? And you're always going to play your best when you're playing the game and kind of reacting and trusting your eyes and trusting those around you and trusting the call, trusting your techniques. And that's easy for a coach to say, when you get in stressful moments or in the course of whatever that may be for a player, that sometimes it's, you look at it, and I think there's sometimes where guys try to do too much, because they're trying to help, or trying to see something, or they saw it, and you know what, I think I can kind of help on this one. And those are all lessons you need to learn, and you can learn, and you gotta take them though. You gotta take the lessons and apply them going forward.
Paul, you talked on Saturday about owning your response and kind of bouncing back. Throughout your career, are there like kind of key points to bouncing back from a tough loss that you've kind of learned and can use with this team?
Yeah, I think that, you always, it goes back to, it's always about the game. And I think you gotta absolutely respect the game. And you appreciate the opportunity to play it, we've got guys, Clay gets hurt. He's not going to play for football for a while. So how do you maximize the opportunity that you get, the chance that you get? And that's by preparing, right? Certainly you prepare in the off season and you prepare for the week to then be able to go out and play that game. And I think that it's no different when you're playing a game. You can't say what happened before. You have to learn from it, whatever that is. But then you got to focus on, and you get to focus on the next play. Because that's all that matters, is how you go forward. And I think it's the same. Therefore, it's the same. And you had that approach. If you have a biggest of wins, okay, that was good. It's only good now if you can stack another one together. You get to go play, and they can't take anything away from you, or you can't take it away. If it went well or if it didn't, they can't erase it happened. And that's what I mean by own it, right? And then, all right, then now what do I take from it to help me to maximize the next moment that I get?
Paul, I guess a couple things. One, I want to get your thoughts on, after looking at the tape, how you thought Tanner and Trey held up on the right side of your line. And then just in the big picture of the line, there have been a lot of changes and adjustments that have gone on, and I'm wondering how you think that's affected just the development of that group as a whole.
Yeah, I think that It was good to get, for Tanner and Trey, it was 2 weeks ago we're talking about getting some meaningful reps, right? And now you're playing the game, and I thought there was some good points in it, and certainly, and I'm not trying to sound like a broken record, but there's some areas where we gotta be better on this. But I thought they both handled the situation, and honestly, Bort's been in it a little bit more than Trey, but I thought they handled the noise, handled the, going up against good players. That's what's all. We're in the Big Ten now, in conference play, and you're going to see really good players, and we're going to see it this week. And as far as kind of I think you're always wanting, just addressing the part about the O-line as a whole, you're always wanting to play with your best guys and to develop continuity. You are is close to space, and there's not many things that a lineman doesn't do that doesn't entail another individual. You look at if it's a run play, typically there's a one or more combination blocks, and if you look at pass protection now, there aren't many times where you're just getting flat up straight rush up the field and you're just blocking your guy. So I think the ability to keep working with each other, and you learn how to play off. How much, if I'm getting a piece of them, you kind of know what that means, right? There's some unspoken that goes into it. I've got it. I've passed it off the right way, and guys are working at it. But certainly when you have continuity, that is helpful, and we're getting there.
Paul, you obviously played Illinois last year, but Brett's going to be coming back to Camp Randall this time. What are your impressions of the job that he did when he was Wisconsin's coach here a decade ago, and when you worked alongside him? What sort of stands out from that era?
Yeah, I was grateful of the opportunity. I'm proud of what those teams were able to accomplish, and as far as working, I enjoyed working with them, and so you look back and you're appreciative of it, and I think what he's done there, and year and a half, it's 2 years, but it's impressive. They're getting, it's a good football team, but if you say specifically, I'm grateful I had that time to be with all the guys we're with, the coaches and the players.
Just wondering, it looks like Clay hasn't been ruled out for the season based on the injury report. Just how soon do you think you can get him back realistically? What's the best case scenario for him?
Yeah, it's he's got to go through, there's a lot for me to say right now. I feel, you feel really bad for him. That and it's right. There's no guarantee just because he put all the work and was coming back. I like the way he was playing. Gets hurt again. But for me right now to say what time, that I'd be misspeaking, I'm sure.
Paul, looking for the defense, the number of sacks right now, it's about 7 through 4 games. And I know there wasn't any last week, but just number of pressures. How do y'all calculate the pressures and whatnot? And how satisfied are you right now with putting pressure on the quarterback, and maybe who else needs to step up besides, Nick, who has 4 sacks this year?
Yeah, I think that, we don't, you guys know, we all know when there's pressure, right? And not always the sack equals, right? That's, we all know that, right? That when you create uncomfortable for the quarterback, right? It's the pressure. And, I think that we've had some guys, you want more to register than just Nick, right? But I think what's really cool about the game is, there will be a individual that gets the final stat, right? Or maybe there's 2, but so many things have to happen, and so many people are working to create that, and so I think that it comes down to playing. I go back to it's a great team sport, and so you can have a lot of production, and you can have guys that are truly impacting and making the quarterback uncomfortable without there being a sack attached to his statistical sheet, and so I think that that's what we need, and I think, you see this in turnovers, and takeaways. There also is times when they're contagious, right? You know what I mean? You get it, and then we got some guys that have been close, and had one the other night, and the quarterback I thought did a heck of a job of stepping out of it, and it was CJ, it was Nick, and with another guy in there. You know what I mean? So it's I think when you play this game, that those things, if you play it right, those things will come your way. If you're looking for it, I think that's one thing. I don't know how many times Torch has just said, okay, I'm going to pick it on this play. But he's in position, so when it comes, the opportunity presents itself, he sees it. And so I think that's putting yourself in the position. I think we got guys working at it, and it'll come for guys. But, you can never have enough.
Paul, last year, Illinois offense, they struggled to score, and you guys shut them out, but they made a change at coordinator, brought in a new quarterback. And it looks like he can help them complement what looks to be a pretty good running game.
Yeah.
From what you've seen on tape, are they an offense that can threaten you more consistently and in multiple ways this year than they were a year ago?
I think so, especially what we saw. And I think as the year went, you saw a couple different I think they've kind of settled in on their identity. And certainly I think the back is really good and talented and runs hard and breaks a lot of tackles. And then I think they do a good job of complementing it. And, I think they've got some explosive playmakers outside, certainly. And I think they do a good job of kind of playing off of what they do, the next part of it, so it's to me, it's packaged well, and it forces you to play discipline, but then you also, and I know I say this, but it's true, when it declares, you gotta get hats. I mean, I think they're finding a good rhythm on offense, and you see that on the tape, and that's what we got to prepare for.
Paul, play action use is way down this year compared to the last few years. Passing attack's obviously been efficient regardless of that, but just what are some of the factors that go into using less play action than over the years?
Yeah, I think part of it's just how the games play out a little bit, and kind of what's happening, and are you getting a lot of possessions, and how are you getting your, how you want to distribute the ball, so I think that's probably at the end of the year, I think you got to take a look at everything, but I think that's kind of where it's been right now.
Just wondering, going back to Brett, you had years where you worked with him, both as assistants, and then you worked on his staff. Just wondering, those years when you were on his staff, what's the biggest thing maybe you kind of learned from that experience that's maybe helped you as a head coach?
Well, I mean, I think you're always learning, and he was, he was very open, so it wasn't like any secrets, and so I mean, there's a lot.
Paul, Jim's obviously had a lot of success with this defense since he became the coordinator. How do you expect him to respond, and the defense as a whole, from a performance that is largely uncharacteristic of the way they've performed for years and years?
Yeah, I don't have any question or hesitation, and absolutely, it'll be a good response.
Yeah, we'll talk to Jim obviously tomorrow, but you talk about Illinois' ability to break tackles, their tailback. Did you see a lot of missed tackle opportunities Saturday against Ohio State when you looked at the tape?
Yeah, I think when you look at it, we had some opportunities to, make an open field tackle, and we missed, on some, and I think that's certainly one thing that, you're always, we had them before that too, you know what I mean? So it's not like it just all of a sudden showed up, right? But that's something that, you're always working on, and got to continue, right? We're not where we want to be across the board. And again, we'll get, like when you watch the film of them, and not just the running back. I mean, the receivers do a good job. I think the receivers do a good job of, kind of running with purpose. And so that's always a big part of it, right? Wherever and that's the game. You know what I mean? especially the teams that are going to spread you out a little bit. And when the ball does declare, yeah, we want to make the one-on-one tackle, but we got to get hats to the ball because, you're you're playing good players. You know what I mean? And they're capable of doing that. And so certainly we've got to continue to keep working it.
Paul, Graham spoke up a couple of times about how him and the receivers are keeping each other accountable, especially when there are mistakes. And you've seen some heated arguments on the sideline here and there. Do you like that as a coach, that it's kind of immediate, or would you prefer that be less public?
I love the relationship component to it, and when it's about the game, and when they're, I know where it's coming from. In the ones I've been right around a couple of them, and him and Chim, and I knew exactly this is good. You know what I mean? And I don't concern myself with. I like what they're doing, and I like the way there's a lot of time that's been invested in each other so that they can have those conversations. And there's not one, in my opinion, there's not one question of where they're coming from, and what's driving it. And so that part, when you have that, then I think it becomes, the best fights I ever got into were with my brothers and my best friend. You know what I mean? And if you truly care, I think that's what's, the ones I've known about, and that's what drives it. And I think that's, I actually think it's healthy.